Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Just sending out a couple of what I believe are newsworthy tweets about my conversation with Steve Lonigan. Let me finish that off. We'll vote against raising the debt ceiling. All right, Steve Lonigan on my program today. If wins Senate seat, will vote against raising the debt ceiling. That goes out as a newsworthy tweet. Hope you enjoyed the conversation with Steve Lonigan, running as an unabashed conservative in New Jersey, of all places, and closing ground against the deep pockets, Hollywood pockets of his opponent. 888-589-8840 is the number to call if you'd like to join the conversation. Let's grab clips 3 and 4 if we can, Rob. Charles Krauthammer, I don't often disagree with Charles Krauthammer, but I flatly disagree with him. He's sort of taken the side of the ruling class Republicans on this, which disappoints me because Krauthammer generally has been a pretty solid conservative voice, but he's gone a little bit wiggy, in my judgment, on this Obamacare. Let's listen. This is clip 1. He's talking with John Roberts on Fox News.
Do you agree, Charles, that with all this rhetoric that we'll shut the government down if need be, but we don't want to? They really don't want to shut the government down. When push comes to shove, they'll fold?
I mean, no rational Republican wants to. I'm not even sure the irrational Republicans want to. The entire history of shutdowns, either the opposition, is the one that takes the hit. On Obamacare, the Republicans are winning. They're winning everywhere. Even the labor unions are up in arms against Obamacare. Why would you want to step in the way? It's the oldest adage in politics. When the other guy's committing suicide, get out of the room. That they ought to let this sail through. And remember one thing, the continuing resolution, in other words, the bill to fund the government, is a success for Republicans because it includes the cuts that are in the sequester that Obama wanted to undo. So we're now starting from a new lower baseline, which is going to mean less spending, which is what Republicans have been trying to get for years and years. So let this pass. And then if you want to have another struggle over this, start with a debt ceiling and try to get what you can.
You know, and there's so much that is wrong with what Krauthammer is saying here. You know, he can say, look, on the Obamacare issue, the Republicans are winning, and it's true in terms of perception that the Republicans are winning the debate. I've got a story here from Politico, of all places, talking about Obamacare suffering one blow after another. Just what a train wreck. This is Politico talking about the train wreck that Obamacare is. Number to call, by the way, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840 if you want to jump in, join the conversation. And here's what Politico says about Obamacare. The Obamacare that consumers will finally be able to sign up for next week is a long way from the health plan President Barack Obama first pitched to the nation. Millions of low-income Americans won't receive coverage. Many workers at small businesses won't get a choice of insurance plans right away. Large employers won't need to provide insurance for another year. Far more states than expected won't run their own insurance marketplaces, and a growing number of workers won't get to keep their employer-provided coverage. In other words, even Politico says, look, this thing is a total disaster. Here's a CEO, Bob Funk. He's the CEO of Express Professions, talking on CNBC. He says this: companies are not really interested in hiring full-time people, or they're really not interested. In other words, they are invested. They are committed to not hiring full-time people. That's really the issue with Obamacare. So he's saying, look, small and medium-sized businesses are not hiring because of the uncertainty surrounding the implementation of Obamacare. So fine, we are winning the battle for perception here. But here's the problem, Charles. Obamacare is still in force. So when he says, yeah, the Republicans are winning, what good is it to win if Obamacare is implemented? What good does it do to be able to talk all these horrible stories about what Obamacare is going to do to people when you have not done everything in your power to stop that thing in its tracks. There's a story, USA Today. There's a family glitch in Obamacare that could leave up to 500,000 children without coverage and could cost some families thousands of dollars. It's a glitch that is in the health care law, and it's going to cost families thousands of dollars because children will not be eligible for coverage under Obamacare unless Congress fixes the problem. Congress defined affordable as 9.5% or less of an employee's household income, mostly to make sure people did not leave their workplace plans for subsidized coverage. But the error was that it only applies to the employee and not his or her family. So if an employer offers a woman affordable insurance but doesn't provide it for her family, they cannot get subsidized help through the state health exchanges. So here's President Obama. We got to do this for the children. He's going to leave 500,000 kids out in the cold. That's my point. If this thing goes into effect, all of these horribles take place. I got another story about a family. They just got a letter in the mail yesterday. Their insurance premiums are going up 300%, and their company, Humana, said it's all because of Obamacare, going from $300 and something a month to $900 and something a month. Nothing has changed. Everybody's just as healthy as they were last year at this time. Nobody's had any major health events over the last year, and their insurance premiums are tripling because of Obamacare. So I say to somebody like Charles Krauthammer, how can you say we're winning when we're not doing everything in our power to stop this thing from chewing up the families of America? And he says you ought to just let this thing sail through. Well, no, I don't think so. You ought to fight this thing hammer and tongs. If you care about people, you care about what this is doing to the American people, you fight this thing with every tool at your disposal. Let's grab the second clip number 4 from Charles Krauthammer. Let's listen.
Look, Cruz has obviously helped himself. Unless he fails, which of course he will have hurt the Republican Party. So I'm not sure how much he cares, because he thinks, obviously he is a rising star, and this is all about him. He knows it's not going to succeed. There's no way it will, at least the idea of stripping out Obamacare, but this is his issue. It reminds me a bit about the filibuster that was conducted by Rand Paul. It was a brilliant piece of political theater. It didn't change anything, but it was well done.
And it was unexpected, too.
And it put him on the scene. It looked dramatic. It had shades of Jimmy Stewart to it. Mm-hmm. And then he became a contender overnight. So this makes Cruz a contender overnight.
So Cruz makes Cruz a contender. And he says, look, he's going to fail. Well, that's what everybody said about getting the House to vote to defund Obamacare. 2 weeks ago, that was an impossibility. It wasn't doable. There was no way in the world that could happen. Now what happened? Over the course of 2 weeks, boom, momentum gathered. The House voted to defund Obamacare. So I think it's premature to say he is destined to fail. He might, but it's premature to say that he is destined to fail. There's no chance that this can succeed, because that's what people said about the movement in the House. And he says he will have hurt the Republican Party. Well, that only matters if that's the thing that matters to you. I mean, what the effect on the Republican Party is immaterial to me, and I guess it's immaterial to Ted Cruz. He's concerned about what this is doing to the country. So you hear all these Republicans out there bloviating, complaining about the damage and harm this is going to do to the Republican Party. And we're sitting here saying, look, we don't care. We don't care who gets hurt as long as this thing gets stopped. What matters now is the health of the country, not what's best for the Republican Party, but what's best for the country. Let's go to the phones, 888-589-8840, number to call. Let's go to Matt, Grand Rapids, Michigan. Matt, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian.
Hey.
I want to, it's funny because we had back in the day with Bill Clinton and George Bush, the Ross Perot rose up, and he split the Republican vote because he was more conservative, and half the Republicans kind of split the votes where Bill Clinton kind of won. And I was wondering for this election, there's a lot of people willing to finance something if they could get their way. If there was a way that we could raise up a liberal of a third party, we could finance him so it's split the Democratic vote to where our Republican would win, and at least all this Democratic spending would stop. I didn't know if that was legal.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, this is America. Anybody's free to participate in the electoral process any way they choose. And it's interesting, if you go back, Matt, to the 2000 presidential election, it was a third-party liberal candidate, Ralph Nader, that cost Al Gore the White House. Because Ralph Nader, as a third-party candidate, he took like 2% of the vote. But remember, the vote differential in Florida between George Bush and Al Gore was 537 votes. If Ralph Nader had not been on the ballot in Florida, his votes would have gone almost without exception to Al Gore. Al Gore would have won Florida, and Al Gore would have been president of the United States in 2000. So there's no question that a renegade third-party candidate could do some real damage to the Democrats. It's hard for me to see that being workable. I don't know the Democrat that's out there, Matt, that would make an appealing enough candidate to the liberals to be able to pull that off. I think Hillary is clearly the front runner. I think Joe Biden, I just can't see the Democrats wanting that guy to be the standard bearer for them. The guy's a buffoon, frankly, and I just can't see them saying, oh, yeah, Joe Biden, that's the guy we want to represent the best of the Democratic Party. So it's probably Hillary Clinton. I don't know that anybody's out there that can threaten her. Anyway, any last words, Matt?
Yeah, I was just like, I think money speaks, and if you found somebody to rise up and the money talks, they don't care, and you just finance them to get on every commercial you can. I mean, you just find a liberal to finance.
Yeah, well, that would be an interesting, and I appreciate the call, Matt. Thank you. Get the Koch brothers on that. They got money to burn. Find a liberal candidate. Run them as a spoiler. Run them as a third-party candidate. Take enough votes away from the Democratic candidate to throw it to the Republican candidate. Not a bad idea. All it takes is oodles and oodles of money. You listen to Focal Point, AFR Talk, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. Back right after this.